pleasant good evening to you, and welcome back to our global community. Welcome back to our international village. We are back for another week of togetherness, another week of great conversation, and another week of a much needed mental break. And I think Marcella will agree with me, especially on this one. It is great to be back with you as we get together for one simple reason: to promote us, to promote who we are as Dominicans, as Caribbean people. So I'm so happy that you're joining us today as we continue to share our experiences, we continue to inspire, and we continue to motivate each other, and we simply show what is possible when we come together as one Caribbean people. So welcome back to our Push Past 10 platform. If this is your very first time joining us, I am Simone Matthew, and we have only one goal on this platform, and that is to promote and celebrate who we are as Caribbean people. Before we get started, I always want to remember to thank our sponsor, tdnradio.net, for sponsoring our Facebook Lives and for all the work that they do to provide sponsorships for our program. So who's ready? Are you ready for another great conversation? Come on in, check in, let us know where you're joining us from. And while you're at it, also let us know how you are doing, because this is certainly some very difficult time. So we say good evening to you and welcome aboard. Don't forget to click the notification button so you will always know when we go live. And don't forget to share this Facebook Live. So Marcella, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Simone. It's so really great to connect with you and to be here, to speak to other Dominicans. It's not a chance that I get often. And so I'm so humbled and just happy to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for being a part of what I like to call our Live Out Loud series. Folks who remind us the importance of living life with no apologies, living life to its fullest, and living our best life now. So again, welcome to our online international village, where we celebrate Caribbean and Dominican folks. And before we get started, I also want to remember to thank Mrs. Heather Durham out there in Antigua. And of course, Marcella, you're joining us from Antigua. And Mrs. Heather Durham was part of our Live Out Loud series, and she recommended you as well.
She is the best. She's the best.
Yes, we also had
Renee in charge of Living Out Loud. We all take our instructions from her. I think she would agree that we're great students.
I can tell, because I had Renee Edwards as well, and she's the same thing, just living out loud and living her best life.
That's right. That's what we do.
And if anyone is on the Facebook Live and you think you might recognize Marcella, that's because if you went to Convent High School back in the day, we won't say what year, Marcella.
Listen, I just turned 30, okay? So I don't know about you, but I'm sticking with 30.
You will recognize Marcella because she was one of our classmates. So we're really happy that she's joining us to tell us all about her life in Antigua and how she has emerged as the CEO of NeaCom. So again, welcome to the program. So Marcella, growing up, you spent quite a bit of time between Dominica and Antiguan. So I just have a quick question. Do you consider yourself Dominican or Antiguan?
I consider myself Dominican to the soul with the little Antiguan seasoning.
That was
Dominican to the bone. I might not sound it, but I can speak patois better than some Dominicans. I can tell you that. Moi, ça parle Creole.
Absolutely. And as for me, I'm just learning to speak Creole, so it's nice to know that you speak Creole.
Yeah, it's, you know what, to tell the truth, I learned Creole from Kassav. I keep telling people that, but it's the truth, because I grew up here, but my brothers were always into Kassav. They're 10 years older than I am, so I was always hearing this music around me, and I'd always ask them, what does this mean? What does that mean? And then I realized that I kind of have a tendency towards languages. And so eventually I started learning French, and it became easier to understand the patois. And it's everything falls in place how it should. And if you really want to, it will. And I really wanted to be able to understand what people were saying around me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, just by way of introduction, tell us who you are. Who is Marcella Andre? And while you do, let me just go ahead and share this Facebook Live to invite everyone to come over to join us. So, just tell us, who is Marcella Andre?
Well, I generally do not introduce myself by telling you what I do. I tell you who I am. And I am a woman who loves life, who loves people, who loves learning and sharing knowledge, who loves seeing plans come together and being part of things that add to change. So I'm a person who just loves life. I currently, what I do, the work that I do, I currently own a communications consultancy called Neocom, and that has been active for going on 9 years. It's been quite a long journey. But before that, I was a professional media professional. I was a media professional journalist. My first ever job was at Kyrie FM, and that was followed by DBS Radio. So I have been in the media for over 20 years and in my business for going on 9 years.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy that you're joining us this evening. So we mentioned you going back and forth between Dominica and Antigua. Can you just give us a brief history of why that was the case?
Well, let us start with how did I get here to begin with? So you know that the Caribbean is a melting pot, and a lot of our islands are very mixed based on, you know, what our parents did. And there was a period when there were Leeward Islands police officers and teachers going between Dominica, Montserrat, Anguilla, Antigua, of course. And so my grandfather was an Antiguan policeman who came to Dominica, and that's how I came to be, because he found my mother's mother, my grandmother, and here we are, you know. So my grandfather is Antiguan, and then after Hurricane David, you know, Hurricane David was quite a disaster, and a lot of people left the island for schooling, for reasons that they needed to basically find a better life in having just gone through such a terrible tragedy. And so I came to Antigua because I already had roots here. My Antiguan family wanted to allow me to go to school here. And it so happened that my Antiguan, I call her my mom because, you know, I came here when I was 4, and she had 4 boys and no girls. And she decided, you know what, we're just going to keep this little girl. And here I still am. So I grew up here for the most part, but then in my teenage years, my Antiguan dad was diagnosed with cancer. And it so happened that when that diagnosis came, I was in Dominica, as I usually would have been on vacation. You know, what would have happened is that I would have spent summer or Christmas in Dominica and then back to Antigua. But with his diagnosis and with having to, at that time, they had to travel back and forth for treatment and whatnot. And so I ended up coming to convent for my last 2 years of high school. That is how I ended up in Dominica. So then after convent, I returned to Antigua for 2 years where I did A-levels. And then I came back. So there was a period of 6 years where it was 2 years in Dominica, 2 years in Antigua, more like a year and a half in the end in Dominica before I then came back and then went on to study. So it's been quite a bit of a yo-yo life. And that's why I say, you know, I am Dominica. I love Dominica so much. In a lot of ways, my love for culture and the arts, that was developed just in the 2 years of being at convent in Dominica. Just being in Dominica for those 2 years, that was an opportunity for me to be really able to see something different, because life was very different here versus there in Dominica. I had a lot more freedom, you could say, because here I lived with a family that basically was home and school, homeschool, brownies, church, Girl Guides, that sort of thing. And I didn't have the ability to walk around freely as I did in Dominica. You know, I lived in Rosedale, Goodwill. I lived in 3 different places in Dominica while I was there. I lived in, first place was Virgin Lane. Then I lived in Goodwill. Then I lived in Kingsley. So I lived in 3 different places over 2 years. And because it was all in Roseau, I could get around everywhere on foot. I could see what was happening. I could go to Blockos. I could, So I really gained a different appreciation for life in Dominica during that period.
Yes, absolutely. And you will be happy to know that the Facebook fans are coming in. So we're saying a special good evening to Basilia Toussaint. Wilhelmine is here. We also have Rosalind Severa, Beverly Johnson, Maxine Allen Esprit. Thank you for being
Hello,
with us.
Maxine, my
Yes,
favorite singer.
Maxine, she's here and she says, I am out of town with terrible connection. Oh, so sorry, I will miss the show. We'll have to look back to it. Much love, Doc Suzanne and Marcella. Not sure who's, oh, I think she meant Doc Simone. I'm like, Susan, who's Susan? But thank you for logging in. We have Irma Williams. I have similar story. My grandfather wonder if he's related. His last name is Francis. So I think people are ready to share.
Is it Francis or Francois? Because I have to tell you, there's a whole other Dominican story. The Andres and the Francois are related. Andre, Francois, and I think Dak. Those 3 names, we are related in some way.
Okay.
All coming from the north.
And then we have Sandra Norris, one of my top fans is here. Lana Athanase. So the convent girls are coming in.
Hello, Lana. Lana.
Thank you for being here, guys. And thank you for sharing the live. So go ahead and share the live as we welcome back Marcella. It's been way too long since we last laid eyes on you. And in my time, I have sometimes wondered about some folks along the way that we went through. And you have actually popped into my mind several times, and I wondered
joking.
Where you had gone.
You know what? I've always kind of felt like I was a blimp on the radar because I didn't really start with everybody from first form up. I appeared in fourth form. It was just 2 years, and then everybody went their separate ways. And I don't think the bonds that would have been formed with people who started together in first form and went all the way through for 5 years. It was different, but I really did make some great friends. I often wonder what's happening? Where's everybody?
Yes, but as we continue the conversation, Marcella, just kind of tell us about your journey to becoming CEO of your own company. So just kind of give us some career highlights and how you finally made that decision.
Simone, I have always known a couple of things about myself. And I think it's important sometimes for us to research our lives or to look back and try and remember, or even ask people in your family, what was I like when I was younger? Or, what kind of person was I? I always knew one thing for sure. I was not a 9-to-5er. I just was not going to be able to be in somebody's office all day because I get bored easily. And I also want to have a certain level of freedom to explore different things, to do things that I want to do, to work with different sectors. And so for 20 years, I worked simultaneously in the media and in education. So I taught at a number of schools on the island while at the same time working on radio. And I've done everything in radio, news reporting, producing. I had my own show, been through it all. And so what really caused me to finally take the big leap is that after 20 years, the radio station at which I worked for 10 years, the owner of that radio station died suddenly. And the people who came in to sort of take over, it was sort of a hostile takeover, I'm going to say, and they did not get along with most of the employees who had been there for quite a while. They made me an offer, which I felt was very disrespectful, having been there for so long. And I just decided, you know what, it's now or never. So I didn't really jump with a safety blanket. I had to find my wings on the way down because it wasn't something that I had planned. It was a moment where I had to make a decision. And so I made that decision. And since then, I have been running my communications company. I specialize in public relations. I do a lot of HR training and corporate event management. So it's been a whole journey, and there have been a lot of lessons. Some of them have been hard. And I appreciate the whole journey though, because like I tell people all the time, I chose this life. Nobody forced it on me. So
Mhm.
whatever comes with this life, I also accept it. And that also includes the moments when things are not, just perfect. Nothing is perfect. And so everything I look at as a learning opportunity. What lesson did I learn from, downplaying myself in a particular contract or underselling myself? How am I going to not do that again? How am I going to charge for what I believe I am worth? So that took a long time to get to. It took a lot of lessons to learn those things, and the other thing about it is that I didn't really have a mentor, so to speak. I learned a lot of things the hard way because there were not people who were willing to guide me. I mean, there were people who pretended, who said,
Mhm.
yeah, I'd like to help you, but they really were opportunists. So all of those things have been a part of the journey. Like I said, it's going on 9 years. I'm still standing. So that's what I consider success. I'm still here. I've done a lot of amazing things. I've had great opportunities. One of the highlights for me, there's so many. I'm going to tell you two. One
Yes,
of them
please.
is that I was able to, my biggest event that I have done was organizing a conference in Dubai for 500 high net worth individuals. And I did all the organizing from here before I went there. So it was a lot of work. It was sleepless nights. But then when we got there and everything turned out as it was supposed to turn out, it was like amazing.
Mhm.
And the thing that I am most proud of right now, because it's the most recent, is that I have launched an award for female entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
People usually create things in their own image. And if you think about it, clothes, music, people make what they like. If you like cheesecake and you want to make a cake, you're probably going to make cheesecake instead of pound cake. If cheesecake is your favorite, you're going to learn to make the thing that you like. And so I chose to do this award because I wanted to have what I did not have along my journey, which was a mentor, somebody who was going to also offer not just emotional assistance and guidance, financial assistance as well. So that's what I've done. It's a program that allows one person to have mentorship from 7 well qualified and well known women in Antigua for the course of a year, and they also get $7,000 to help them with their business. So it has to be a young business woman, and it's an annual thing. So I'm very proud of that because I've always thought of how can I give back? How can I, even though I cannot help 500 people, I can help one at a time, and those each individual can then create a ripple because they'll be able to help somebody too. And as a matter of fact, part of the award is that the individual has to also, within her year, contribute $1,000 to another individual that she deems worthy. So that's something I am super proud of.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And I'm gonna steal that expression, Marcia. Actually, Marcella actually wrote it down. Find my wings on the way down.
That's
I have
right.
never heard
I
that
could
before,
just
and that
jump and
is
say, let's see
so
what happens.
powerful. Yeah, find my wings under. So you take that leap of faith and then you find your wings. But let's talk in reality about the importance of networking, because I think what happens is we have so many challenges when someone like you who's trying to take the leap of faith, and you look around and you're like, well, where do I start? So let us talk about the importance of networking. And I can tell just from having interviewed you, Heather, and Renee, that you have an incredible support system in Antigua that is not just word of mouth. So even from the example you just provided, I can tell that there's a lot of action that goes into supporting each other. So just tell us about the importance of making the right connections with authentic people.
Well, it is not, the term networking is something I don't love it
Right,
because it has the energy of literally just looking for people
right.
that you hope you're going to be able to make money from, or by spending time with them, money will come your way. Now, yes, I understand that's typically, eventually, that's what you desire. I prefer the idea of building real relationships. The
Absolutely.
reason I am still here, I can tell you, is because of relationships I built before I needed the relationships. It's connections I made and I kept in touch, and here and there if people needed assistance, I was willing. I cannot say I actively went out looking for a network, because I must also admit that I am actually an introvert. You won't believe it, but it's true. People like me, those of us who do public things, we are actually the most introverted.
So am I, and
So
most people don't believe me when I say I'm
that's what I'm
introverted.
saying. People don't believe it because they're like, you, please. Because I've been on stages, I've hosted things, I've done everything. But the truth is that I value and love just quiet time by
Me too.
myself.
Me
You
too.
understand? And so I am not the person that's going to go to a fete or to an event in the hope of meeting somebody. I believe you're going to meet the right people in the right places, but also the way I reached out was to constantly get in touch with people, say, hey, I'm Marcella Andre. One of the problems I did have, I have to say, is that everybody knew me as a radio person. So they did not know that I possessed other skills. So it was pretty difficult to get people to shift from Marcella Andre radio person to Marcella Andre communication consultant. We do other things here. We train, we do PR, we do events. And so there was quite a period in the early stages where also, people who were accustomed to calling and saying, hey, I have this thing to do. What do you think? Whereas before I might say, oh, you could do this. I'd suggest you do that. Then those calls came and I said, well, actually, there's a cost for that. Then it was a different story because your expertise was required and valued when they could pick your brain at any time. But when you said, well, actually, this is now my bread and butter, so you have to pay for that, that was a different story altogether. And, some people were lost along the way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Some people were
Yeah.
lost along the way because it
Yeah.
really became sort of a battle with trying to let people understand, listen, if I don't charge you for this, I cannot take thank you to the gas station. I can't
Absolutely.
take thank you to the grocery store. I
Mhm.
can't even take a bottle of wine to the grocery store. I need real money and it's worth it. So, if I'm not your person, that's not for you, that's fine. But you can't do any more business booty calls. That's what I call
Mhm.
it. No more business booty calls.
That's a good one. That's a
No
good
more
one.
business booty calls.
And I
Nope.
think that is where a lot of the difficulty comes in for folks who are starting off, because it seems everybody wants the information and they want your skills for free. But the minute you decide to pivot and say, well, I'm going to make this into a business opportunity, then all of a sudden you start looking a whole less more attractive.
You're
And
not so attractive anymore. What?
it's
There's a
so
cost for that?
unfortunate. Yep. It is so unfortunate that we think that way. But I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for sharing with us all the information that you're providing. But just kind of tell us, what has COVID-19 been like for you? But before you do, I want to make sure we highlight your services. So can you tell us some of the training programs that you offer and some of the other services that you provide?
All right, my main signature training revolves around customer service. So I have quite a number of programs under the customer service umbrella because that is something that I'm very passionate about. And as a matter of fact, for any of your viewers who are interested, I have a page on Facebook. It's called Customer Service in Antigua and Barbuda. There are over 8,000 people on it. And the reason that page came about is because of an incident I had many years ago when I started the page. And, I tell people we all work hard for our money. We all deserve basic kindness. And, you have expectations when you go to a business place. And so I'm not going to tolerate bad service. I'm not going to tolerate your attitude. And after that particular experience that I had, which was actually not just bad service, but it was also racist, I said, I cannot be the only one. And so I'm going to start a page for people, not just to air their grievances, but also to talk about great service. And it's a living page. It's constantly busy. People are always sharing their experiences. And as a result of the page, actually, people have gotten promotions when people have come and said, oh, I got such great service from this place. Or people have gotten things resolved, because that's how it's unfortunate again. These days, when people want something resolved, they come and blast it on the page. And of course, no business place wants to see their names in that kind of light, you know? So immediately they get in touch with the person who put up the post and they try to resolve the situation. So it has been a great place, but customer service is what I'm very passionate about. Outside of customer service, I do team building. I also do sessions on empowering of yourself, professional development. What does it take to show up in the workplace as a professional? What does that look like? And also reminding people who are employees of business places that the first person you have to show up for is for yourself. Okay, because you're representing yourself when you step out of the house. You're representing your line, even your family, all of that. So how you choose to show up at the workplace is a representation, first of all, of you. The other thing is that people tend to say, oh, you know, somebody provoked me or somebody got me upset. And I keep wanting to remind folks that you're responsible for yourself. You cannot be a slave to your emotions. You're supposed to master it and control it. And nobody else outside of you should be able to get you to act in a way that is going to dishonor your business place, that is going to embarrass you, all of those things. So customer service, team building, professionalism, and media. How media. Just did 2 workshops 2 weeks ago on media, how the media works, the filters through which we get news, how it affects what we get, all of that. So,
and I'm so happy you mentioned customer service, because can you do a course for Dominica? Because I think that is one of the areas we struggle with.
You know what? I really,
you walk into a store and you feel like you're disturbing somebody.
You feel like they're saying it's your pleasure to be served by me. Instead of it's my pleasure to serve you, it's like it's your pleasure to be served by me.
So true. Yeah, we need that. We need that. But has COVID-19 caused you to pivot in any way? Have you had to go virtual in many of your training programs? Just tell us some of the challenges you faced along the way in your 9 years of being the CEO of NeoCom.
So I would have to admit that when COVID first came around, well, let me step back a bit. I don't remember if I shared this with you in our talk, you know, initially, but COVID came around in early 2020. And between December 2019 and January 2020, I was in the hospital in the ICU in a coma, with what I was told was community-acquired pneumonia. Now, you can put 2 and 2 together, considering what came after, okay, and figure out that it probably was that before we knew it was around. So I came into 2020 already not in the best of ways. And I was so looking forward to celebrating 2020. Man, I was in the hospital bed hearing the fireworks and feeling just so left out. So it already did not start off in a way that would seem like this is going to be conducive to a great year, you know? But luckily for me, a few things. I am not, because I work on my own, I work from home exactly where I am right now. This is my office. My office is my phone, my computer, my car. Once I have those 3 things, good to do. I can do anything, good to go. So when lockdowns came, that was not a problem for me because I'm accustomed to being home. I'm also an introvert, let's not forget. So I don't miss not being out there, having to go and, you know, be all of that. So I was already comfortable with that. Where things did change and it became a little problematic, of course. I'm accustomed to doing workshops in person with people. That makes a difference. And now, last week, that was the first time since early 2020 that I had in-person workshops. So that tells you a bit of how it went, you know, because even though I did do a couple Zoom sessions, it's just not the same. Anything on Zoom is harassment. It's harassment because you have to start and say, could you turn on your mics? Hi, I'm talking to you. Could you please turn it? It's not the same. It really takes away a great aspect of the atmosphere. And just the environment that is required for learning and for people to share with each other. So that there's that. And then coming into 2021, things have slowed down a bit, I have to admit, because again, I mean, human beings are being human beings in our Caribbean and around the world. And I think at some point we all thought that this would be over by
Oh,
2020.
absolutely, absolutely.
21, right? We're
I
like,
gave it
okay,
December 2020 to be done.
people were expecting Carnival this year, okay?
Yep.
So, but it's only gotten worse because our numbers are rising again.
So ours as well.
Our curfew is it has changed again, and I'm sure by next week our curfew is going to probably move to 6 o'clock, and things are going to go back to the levels of last year March. So as a result, I've had to tighten my belt a little. I had an assistant until today, interestingly enough, and we've had to change our relationship because I really, at this moment and looking forward, it's going to be difficult to maintain her as a full-time person. So these are the things that happen, and you have to look at them head on. And, it was very difficult because she is a person that I've loved working with, and nobody wants to cut anybody's pay. But at the same time, you have to think of how realistic is it for me, based on what's going on, to continue to be able to pay this person a full-time salary while life is happening. Their bills don't stop. Statutory contributions don't stop. Meanwhile, there are no workshops going on.
Right.
So it has been a moment. 2020 was actually great. It's 2021 that is really slowing down right now.
Right. So we continue to pray that this will be all over soon. So we just have to encourage everyone to take the necessary steps to get it over with. But if you're just joining us, I want to thank you for being here. I see Chris Bugunu says good evening. Lana Athena says, my girl, great to see you. Marcella. Sandra Norris says, very nice. Sabria Senhouse is on the live. Hi, Bria. Always good to see you. Bassi says, you are talking directly to me, and I'm in a field that requires working out of my comfort zone, but I must take time to relax and reflect. So she's introverted as well. That's what she's sharing. Frances Fontaine Harvey. Good evening, Dr. Simone and Marcella Andre. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. So, of course, if you're just joining us, we're speaking to Marcella Andre out in Antigua, and she's the CEO of Neocoms, and she's telling us all about the challenges of COVID-19. So she's had tremendous success, even going as far as hosting a program out in Dubai for 500 participants. So we know that she will be able to recover from this COVID-19 crisis, and she will be able to resume her successful practice. And she's holding strong, because I know personally that she's a very strong person indeed. Now, speaking about strength and being a woman, Marcella, I think it's also important for us to talk about whether or not you believe women are on an equal playing field in business and industry in your experience. So now that you've had all this experience in media and you've had this experience as a business owner, what are your views?
Let's keep it real. The boys club still exists. We still live in a patriarchal system. We still live in a society where it's like women have the same role that Black people play in relation to white people. You have to work twice as hard. You have to show yourself to be twice as valuable. And even when you are able, you are still kind of fighting with people who have less capacity, less range, less experience than you do, but they are already in positions where they have been given a certain amount of power, and that allows them to think. And it all depends on the woman that they're dealing with, though, because some women are like, I don't care who you are, I will not accept a certain level of treatment. So I have, like I've said, I've had a lot of lessons along the way. I've had to deal with all sorts of individuals. Some of the men have been the worst because there is so much ego that comes with some of the, I keep saying some, it's not all, before some men jump into your comments and say, oh, but who feels it knows it. I have been the only woman in a room of people who have to decide on something. And I might be even the person who has the lead on the project. And some man in the room, first of all, will start off with, well, darling, I'm not your darling. We didn't wake up this morning together. Don't call me darling. My name is Marcella. And then saying something like that now gets me branded the B word,
Yes.
because what's the big deal? And not enough women call people out and just stop them before they become habituated with certain things.
Mhm.
So I think we still have a long way to go in terms of reaching. I don't think we're ever going to have the equity that we need, but I believe that there are a lot more openings. And because more and more women are seeing the value in working with each other, instead of accepting the narrative that women only want to fight each other. I refuse that narrative, because the
Absolutely, me too.
people who I refuse that narrative.
Hmm.
I am here because of my girlfriends, because my girlfriends were the ones who showed me opportunities when they came, who called my name in the right room. And that's another thing. People don't realize it's a simple thing, like being in the right place at the right time. And you know that wherever you are right now, they're looking for a particular organization, or they're looking for a particular service. And you know somebody who provides that service. That's when you say, I know this person.
Right.
At least give it a try. You know, that's how the boys club do it. That's how the boys
Absolutely.
club gets around, because they're constantly putting each other on. So I believe in supporting women, in working with women, in encouraging women, in pushing them, and just believing that we can rise to levels that, people never thought we could. I'm sure there are people who thought I was going to be busted in 2 years. I was never going to still be here in this business. You understand? Because again, I did not come out with a parachute and a happy landing. It was a sudden decision that was made, but I'm still here because I believed. I know my talent. I know what I'm capable of. And you have to have a reason that you want to keep going. And so even in moments where it was difficult, I just came back to, why am I still here? What's the reason? And the reason is that I really wanted to. The first reason was my nieces. I have two nieces, and their parents sort of were pushing them towards particular studies. I knew that one of them did not really want to go there, but that's one of the things that happens in life. Our parents sometimes try to live through us. And so they think you should be a doctor. That's what I'm going to push you to do. Meanwhile, a lot of times, so many people end up doing things that they don't want to do because they were trying to fulfill somebody else's dream.
Right.
So I wanted to be the example for my nieces. You don't have to do what they tell you to do. I probably, the rogue auntie, because I'm saying stuff that's contrary to what their parents and grandparents are saying. But I also know so many people who are unhappy because they've done the thing that somebody else wanted to do. So I was always whispering into their ears, come on, you can do whatever you want. You don't want to do medicine, go do communications or whatever it is that floats your boat, but just don't do something because you feel you have to, because you've been pressured to do it.
Yeah, and
So that's one of my reasons.
that's why, on the flyer I said, be you with no apologies, because you so very well embody that. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, why do you think there is so much societal pressure for women to be married and have children? And this comes especially from your own family. There's this societal pressure that no matter how successful, and you're tremendously successful, but there always seems to be that societal pressure that if you're single, well, first of all, something is wrong with you. And second of all, you need to be married and you need to have children to almost validate you. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I laugh about it a lot
Mhm.
because, for instance, I'm the only girl. I have two brothers, okay, and I'm the last and the only girl. And up to today, I mean, I just to let anyone who's watching know, I have been married. I am divorced. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't have any children. But my older brother, who's 10 years older than I am, when he speaks to my other brother about me, he still kind of says, Marcella's all by herself. She doesn't have anybody. And I'm thinking, what, like, am I a leper? um, so again, I'm going to come back to the same place where it starts. We live in a patriarchal system where we were conditioned, and religion plays a part in that as well. And I'm not even going to go down the religion rabbit hole. I'm just going to drop that there, where it says this is how it's supposed to go. And too often we do not question things. And I'm not saying that it's wrong. Like, if you want to be married and have 10 children, great for you, as long as you're happy. But also, if I don't want to be married, if I feel like, you know what, I think I'm a better single person, I am able to do more of what I want to do in life, meaning contribute to society.
Mhm.
People are discovering that it's okay, women especially, because you see, before, a woman's place in society was all dependent on having a man because it was the man who provided. But now women can provide for themselves. That does not mean that they don't want companionship. That does not mean that they don't want these things. But I don't think that that women should be looked at differently because they don't have those things. I'm telling you, up to now, I've even stopped bothering to want to explain to my brother. I just smile every time he says, Marcella is all by herself.
And you should say,
Because
and that's
both of
exactly
them
how I
have
like
wives and
it.
children. And you would think I'm the girl, I'm supposed to have the children and all that.
Right,
So
right.
it's just society. We have to break away from the constructs that we have grown up with and just
Mhm.
question things and ask yourself, I just know so many unhappy women,
Yeah,
Simone. I
because
really do.
they've had to settle because there was so much pressure. Not to mention that biological clock that keeps ticking, tick tock, tick tock, and then you get to the point where there's societal pressure, there's the pressure from the biological clock, and you end up settling because you
Not
got to
only
get this
settling, but
done.
just, yeah, settling and just unhappy, miserable in
Yeah.
every way, miserable in a job, miserable in a relationship. And I just refused that life. When I was married, I saw certain things from my husband. And I'm going to tell you, like, there's such a tendency to be like, what are people going to say? And as you know, I say, I don't care. My wedding photo, because I was still working on radio at the time, and the radio station that I was connected with also had a daily paper. And so my wedding photo was on the front page of the daily paper because I worked there. So I could have been that person who said, oh my God, what are people going to say when they hear I'm getting divorced?
Right.
And then, that thought didn't last even a second because I thought none of them are living with me. None of them are in my shoes. And so what people say, that's their business, but it's not mine.
Right. Absolutely. Very well said. And you're such an inspiration for so many young women out there. But I want to talk about some of your career highlights because I've seen you on TED Talk and Tiga, which I didn't even know existed. So just kind of tell us how that came to be and share with us some of your career highlights before you tell us some simple advice you would like to leave with any young woman who's thinking of going into business.
So the TED Talk really was an opportunity that came just around the time that I was leaving, that I had made the decision to leave the radio station.
Mhm.
And I thought that when they approached me, they wanted me to talk about, that whole idea of jumping, of taking that leap of faith. And that's what they wanted my TED Talk to be about. But as we talked, and I told them, because there's a whole process to become a TED speaker, a TEDx speaker, and there are practices, and they'll listen to what you have to say, and they say, and they'll ask you more questions. It's almost like they are trying to find the real story from what you are saying. They're trying to decide what is the story we want to tell. And by the end of going through a couple of meetings, it ended up that they decided that the story is that I'm a child of two islands. And really and truly, both islands have affected me in so many different ways. And it has shaped the person that I have become, because the talk itself was called A Tale of Two Islands, Displacement Breeds Discovery. And it really was a displacement because I came to Antigua not with my own family. I grew up in another family. And there was a great feeling of not feeling Dominican enough. And Antiguans telling you bang water come here or you came on the ship boat.
I lived in
Yes,
Antigua. I remember that. Mina
you
Bangwada for
bang
come here.
water come here.
Antigua me born.
Even though my grandfather is Antiguan, like I have a right to be here, really. But there were all of those things, you know, it was that knowledge. And so kind of like, where do I fit in? And just like I said, coming to Dominica and going to high school for only 2 years and not really forming deep enough bonds that I was like I don't know. There's something. So that was what the talk ended up being about. And it really, at that point, gave me a chance to really think about it because it was kind of in my subconscious, but I never really thought about it before. I was just like, yeah, this is where I grew up. I'm in Antigua, okay. But I never thought about how the yo-yo years, the years when I did convent 2 years, came back to Antigua, came back to Dominica. I didn't think about how it affected me until that point. And then I realized it had really affected me a lot
And it's so
in both
beautifully
good and bad
done.
ways.
It's so
In both,
beautifully done. I encourage everyone to look it up. It is so beautifully done, Marcella. So if you're looking for it, it is TED Talk Antigua, I believe. And
yes,
it's
TEDx
Marcella.
Antigua. Just look for my name.
And just look for Marcella Andrea. You cannot miss it. And you want to just sit down, put your feet up, get your favorite drink, and just get ready for a trip because it
It
is
was a
so
trip.
beautifully done. So
People cried
beautifully
in the
done.
audience. People
Oh,
cried in the audience.
good.
Yeah,
Wow, it was
because
really beautifully done. So, what's next for you, Marcella? Once all this COVID-19 is behind us and life resumes completely and fully, what's next for you?
well, guess what? You know, one of the great things about COVID is that it really it has given everybody, if they choose to take the opportunity, a
Mhm,
chance to reflect on where you are and where you want to go. And I have actually been thinking about not returning to Dominica full time, but there are some things that I have in mind for Dominica because,
excellent.
you know, that I'm going to just leave it at that, but that's the plan. That's the 2 year plan.
Good. Good. Well, I'm happy to know that despite you living in Antigua full time, Dominica is always still on your mind
Dominica's got
because you're
my heart.
Dominican. We're claiming you.
I don't mind. I love it. I love it.
Yes. Well, thank you for being with
I
us.
have a
We have
Dominican passport. Hey, I
Oh, look at
belong.
you. Good for you. Rosalind says, so very true. I think she's just commented on something you said. Glenda Shillingford is here and she said, blessed evening, Simone and guests. So, by way of final thoughts and then also your contact information. So, any advice you want to give a young woman or anyone who's thinking of taking that leap and finding their wings on the way down? I wrote it down. I wrote it down
Finding their wings on the way
on
down.
the way down.
Yes,
Any
what I
advice?
want to say to any woman who is considering going into entrepreneurship, I want to keep it real, first of all, because people think that you're just so free. This is what it means to be your own boss, you know, especially if you're a small business like I am, like it's just me and one assistant. You have to be clear on your why. That's the first thing. Why do you want to do this? Why are you doing it? You have to be clear because once you know the why of it, that's the thing that's going to keep bringing you back when times are hard. That's the thing that's going to keep you centered and focused that, you know what, I am doing this for this reason. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to persevere. If you're just going into business, say, I'm just going to try and make money, you are bound to fail because you do not have your heart and a purpose in it. My business name, Nia Coms, Nia means purpose. It was selected very intentionally because it's all about purpose. The actual logo that is on my business card, I don't know. I think you've seen it on my website and so
Mhm.
on. It means versatility, ingenuity, and flexibility because those are the things that embody how I operate. So why, know your why, have a good support system. Everybody doesn't need to know what you're doing immediately. And work on your mindset because mindset is also the thing that tears people down. life happens, and some people are very quick to just melt the minute something does not go their way. It's part of life. I used to tell people, you better like the taste of your own tears if you're going to be an entrepreneur, because you're going to have them. They're going to come, but they will pass. So just be prepared, believe you can do it, always keep learning. I mean, that was a whole lot more than you asked for, but I think
Oh
all of
no,
those
keep
things are
going.
important.
I'm just eating this up, Marcella. I'm just eating this up. Keep going.
Yeah, and I'm telling you from being in it, because there are people who think, oh, you get to be your own boss, you have your own hours, but realistically, you work twice as hard in your own business, twice, three times as hard, because it's yours. And also because there's no salary coming. So you better be working. You better be figuring out, how is that money going to be coming to you? How are you going to, again, you can't take thank you and credit to the gas station. I can't pay the gas station with a thank you. They take money, cold
Yes,
hard cash.
absolutely. So
So
you do have to work hard. And I think a lot of times people don't think of the reality that, sometimes you work from sun up to sun down. It never ends. And you have to be able to commit. And you also have to be able to be steadfast when things are not going your way. And what I've also found, Marcella, is sometimes it's so easy to focus on what is not going right and to
yeah,
not see what is
the
going
thing,
right. So we get
yeah.
stuck on the fact, well, this part of what I'm doing is not working. But then in the meantime, you have all these followers, maybe on Facebook, or your social media is growing, or people are
And you
calling
have
your names in
opportunities.
the right places.
You have opportunities. You just have to look at the positives. And I mean, I'm
Yes.
not saying that in a cliched way, but you do not, nothing is served by focusing on all the things that are going wrong and by
Mhm.
worrying. So it's a better use of your time to think, what else can I do? How can I change? What's the next thing that, COVID has served many new businesses. A lot of new businesses have developed because of COVID. And so many of them could have existed before, but it took something to push them, like delivery services. Nothing
Mhm.
was being delivered before COVID.
Right.
Everything is being delivered now. I get my laundry picked up and dropped off. Everything
Mhm.
is delivered now.
Right.
Businesses, caterers are doing more packages for little small events, that should be socially distanced, but we've heard things. We've seen numbers rise. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Right,
We've
right,
seen
right.
numbers rise. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. But and we want to take some comments on the Facebook Live because there's tremendous support on the Facebook Live, Marcella. So Sandra Norris says, "What a pleasant and bubbly lady. I'm enjoying listening to her." Nicole Georges, speaking of support, Nicole
Nick.
Georges, what a tremendously supportive lady, Nicole Georges. Excellent professional who is always pleasant. Not an easy balance, but she embodies both. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for being here. I'm Semi Della, proud of this lady, my friend and
I
sis.
love
You
her.
need
That's
to
my
come
big
back home.
sister. She claimed me.
Yes, you need to come back home in
I'm
more
coming.
ways
I'm
than
coming, girl. I'm
one.
coming. Hold on.
Yes.
We coming.
Rosalind Sevre, I'm listening to this interview on the train coming from work. Glad to have tuned in. Thank you so much, Rosalind. Glenda says some people want their business just to not have a boss tell them what, when, and how to do things. And that's always an unhealthy reason to start your own business. Lavella James, great advice. I love her energy. Tiana Benjamin, genuinely bold and professional. I love that. Thank you. Mema, hey, Mema, nice to see you. I knew Marcella as a young girl. Her mother was instrumental in my life. She's a gem. Oh, this is beautiful.
I can't believe all those people are there. I wish I could see the comments because I'm on my phone, so I can't see a thing.
Yes, when
But I
we're
love
done,
everybody. I'm coming home soon.
when you
Not
when
right
you
now. We got to plan these things, okay? We don't just jump, except for,
Right.
but we have to plan.
Right. So when you're done using your phone, you can check out the comments and respond as well. But your contact information, Marcella, your website, your email, whatever you would like to share with the audience so they can reach out
I
to you maybe
think
for your
the
training
easiest
session.
way that you can find me. I'm a social media advocate. So the social media is also one of the things one of the areas where I do training.
Right.
So social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but Instagram and Facebook are where I'm more active, both by using my name, Marcella Andre, and or my business, Niacoms. That's NIACOMMS. So either look for me both ways, go everywhere. And if you're
Yes.
interested in seeing what's happening on the customer service page, go there. I think, I'd love to find somebody in Dominica who would love to collaborate with me on
Yes.
hosting that sort of page in Dominica, because
Yes.
believe me, there is so much that has changed as a result of that page. There are managers and businesses who tell me they wake up and check the page every day just to hope that they're not on the page. Nobody
Remind us
has
the page.
managed that.
Remind us the name of the page again.
Customer service in Antigua and Barbuda.
Yes, absolutely. Tina Bell de Ramon says if Lenore Wati is in Dominica, she'll surely come home. Not sure what she means by that. Nicole, she forgot to mention she is also a talented radio play actress, Regina King, Redemption
Oh,
Road.
Nicole, yes.
Redemption Road.
There's so many things. My role, Nicole knows my role. I don't know if everybody else knows it. I don't know who's watching, but
Yes, we're big fans of Redemption Road around here. So I want to thank you again, Marcella. This has been a wonderful conversation. You're such a light in a dark world. So thank you for stopping here to share a word of inspiration. Of course, we're doing this via Facebook Live, but it will also be on my radio program, Untapped Potential. So thank you for reaching out to so many people who just need a positive word today, who just need a mental break from all the stress and the chaos.
Can
And
I just say one more thing, Simone?
Yes.
Just based on the information that I shared with you earlier, I just want to say to every person, but specifically women, because women have it harder, whether people want to believe it or not. Take life one moment at a time. Even the worst of worst days, the sun is still going to rise tomorrow. Okay? The sun is still going to rise tomorrow. Find the people or the person that can hold your hand and walk you through the dark night and the terrible thing that's happening. One moment at a time. That's what I'm going to say. Okay? It's very important.
Yeah, so beautifully said. So beautifully said. Let's see. Frances, what a great discussion. Marcella, your positive vibes are contagious. Sandra Norris, amen to that. So I want to invite you back, Marcella. Our platform is growing so quickly. We get about 12,000 visitors a month. So we're truly grateful for that. And we're truly grateful for very supportive Facebook fans who continue to share these messages and share the videos and see the value in everything that we're doing to create a positive environment and to promote our Caribbean people. So I want to invite you back, as we continue to grow, we'll probably
Anytime
have
you're ready, just let me
forums,
know.
business forums to continue to highlight our businesses and continue to just educate our people. So, sometime in the future, it would be wonderful to have you back, and I will let you have the final word.
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Like I said, I don't often get the chance to connect with Dominicans and, Dominicans where they are. And I really am happy that I had this moment. I'm looking forward to more connections like this. And like I said, I'm Dominican to the bone, just with a little Antiguan seasoning. And I just wish you all the best. We're living in times that are difficult for a lot of people. Yes. And mental health is something that is on mental health difficulties. That's on the rise. And I really just want to encourage, that's my last word. I want to encourage people to just take it one day at a time. Surrender to what is. Surrender to life as it is. Don't try to change it into something that it is not. We have to go through what we're going through to get to the other end. So do that. care about other people, be kind. That's it. Thank you so
And
much, Simone.
thank you so much, Glenda. Thanks to those beautiful words, Miss Andre. And I want to say thank you to everyone for always being here for our Facebook Lives, for spending this time with us each and every week. As you know, we're here each and every week with an inspirational guest or just a product to promote something about the Caribbean. We cannot get enough of the Caribbean. So again, I want to thank you for being here, and I wish you a pleasant good evening. And we will see you next time. Don't forget to click the notification button to know when we go live next, and to follow Push Past 10. So I'll see you soon. Take care.